I am so thrilled to have Matt Iseman on the show. Matt we met a couple of years ago at the backstage at the Arnold. He had just won the Celebrity Apprentice. Then I think you came and you did the auction at the After School All-Stars, and you were in the you were at the security bubble there the rest of the weekend. So you were like all over the place with Arnold.
He was putting me to work.
Yeah. And so a lot of people don't know this, but you're an Emmy Award winner. You're obviously known for being the host of American Ninja Warrior, which is something I cannot wait to talk to you more about. And you're still a licensed doctor.
Yes. My dad always points that out. My dad's a doctor as well. And I most people don't know. You wouldn't know it from Ninja. Maybe you heard it on Apprentice. But I went to med school, got my MD, was doing medicine, and then quit to do stand-up comedy and ended up in hosting. And I think it's not a typical career path. Ken Jeong is the other one who's done it. He's gotten into movies. I'm still doing reality TV. But I think what's nice is because of Apprentice and because of some of the other efforts I've made, I've now been able to, through entertainment, start to try to help people as well through raising awareness for charities and raising money. And Schwarzenegger's been unbelievable. I actually did a charity event at his house where I was the auctioneer and my partner was Tom Arnold. So you can imagine chaos. But that night we ended up raising over $5 million in a single night for the After School All-Stars. So it's been amazing that entertainment has kind of allowed me to come full circle and still try to help people.
Absolutely. And my wife and I had the pleasure of having dinner with Tom Arnold. That guy, it's hard to believe that he's 60. Oh, he has tons of energy.
Tons.
Oh my gosh. And his stories, I don't know if you got to hear how he ended up having 2 kids, but his stories are incredible. I mean, when he talks about, it took him just a tremendous amount of effort to have 2 kids. But all of his stories are funny. The guy is just like, at 100 miles an hour all the time.
That's one of the cool things with Schwarzenegger. When you're around Schwarzenegger, you see this guy has friends from all elements of his life, but some of his friends have been friends. He's turning 73 this year.
That's right.
And he's had, Franco Columbo's been his friend since I think he was 16.
Yes.
And is still in his life. And one of the things that I love about Schwarzenegger that I think speaks volumes about him is he has friends for decades. He still works with his people from when he was governor and from when he was in the movies. His stuntman since True Lies is still his stuntman. And I think, it speaks to what a loyal guy he is. And that's why, the great thing with winning Celebrity Apprentice, it was nice what happened because of the show, raising the money. But what's been amazing is staying friends with him afterwards, staying in his sphere, because there are certain people you meet in life who I think operate at a different level. And he's one of them who's been successful in so many phases of life, from bodybuilding to real estate, to movies, to politics, to philanthropy, to just seeing him continue to build a brand, and how force of will, a clear vision, and just a refusal to accept no. Yes. Because I think so many people have a great idea. So many people have some inspiration, but as soon as they hit a roadblock, as soon as somebody tells them no, they think that's the answer, instead of saying either I'm going to change your mind or I'll find someone who says yes. Absolutely. And when you're around people like that, I think it's really it's a reminder of what you can do with just an unbelievable amount of dedication and perseverance.
Absolutely. Well, the thing I've learned about being around Arnold and people like Arnold is that just when I thought I was kind of thinking big, I realized how small I really think. And as you mentioned, This is a guy who, is unstoppable. He goes from one goal to the next, to the next, to the next. He's got this ridiculous self-belief. And what I found out as you have to have this ridiculous self-belief, because otherwise he would not be able to accomplish the things that he has been able to accomplish. I mean, we've seen somebody who's good at one thing. They're either a great athlete, or they're great in business, or they're great in politics. Seldom do you see somebody who's good at so many different things. And the only thing that's going to stop Arnold from achieving something, I think, would be death. Like you said, he's 73, and you don't see him really slowing down. I mean, when he's at the Arnold, he makes an attempt to visit all the different activities, and there's like 50 plus activities. He starts at early in the morning. He goes to late at night. The guy is unstoppable.
Well, so that was a really good point, Bert. Again, when I went there, the first time I went there was a couple years ago, and we'd get up at 7 a.m. He first of all, he would get up around 5:30. He would work out for an hour and a half. And then we'd start around 7:30, and now it's over 80 events. And he would go to 7 different buildings, and to be around him there, it's like being around the Beatles, where you are in, he's not a rock star. He's like a god, where we're in a convention center with probably, close to 100,000 people.
Yeah.
And all eyes, every camera, is reaching out, screaming for him. And he does this for hours on end and is on point. And when he's there, it's what, I remember they said that about politicians like Bill Clinton, where when you talk to them, it's like you feel the sun shining on you. They give you this unbelievable focus. And Arnold is one of those people. But, when you talk about having success in so many different areas, it's interesting, because I think when I was trying to think of his skill set, I think it really does come down to whether you think of, bodybuilding, his physique, or acting, his skills, or politics, his mind. I think it all comes down to to really the essential things of the charisma, the perseverance, and the self-belief. Like, those are the traits that motivate everything else, because he'll be the first to tell you he's not the best actor, but he's the guy who said, I'm not taking a role unless I'm the star. So his third movie is Conan the Barbarian. Third movie, he's leading actor. That's unheard of. But he refused to, and he just was demanding it. And because of bodybuilding and what he did, he willed his way into it, made connections. And it really is, when you see in entertainment, I'm surrounded by people who are funnier than I am, who are better hosts than I am. But so far, I think a lot of it has come from my ability to parlay one job into another, to work with people, to convince them that I can do it. And you see with this business, where so many things in life you think are objective come down to subjective. And so you want people to choose you. And we have so much more control over that. And it's one of those lessons we all need to be reminded of, because so often I think the limitations that really hold us back are the ones we create.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. And, something that you hit on there is the charisma aspect of it. There are some people that, because there are, I'll just say, charismatic or just fun to be around with, right? And if they're fun to be around with, they tend to, I think, get more opportunities, because there are people who are difficult to be around with, and because they are difficult to get around with, you really have to want them in your project, because you got to put up with their nonsense. Yeah. And, I see this, over and over again, and people skills are important. Charisma is important. If people like to be around you, then you're going to get more work. You're going to open more doors. If you're a stick in the mud, if you're a jerk to work with, then you really better be really good at what you do, because
100%. It's interesting, because I have friends who work in what should be ostensibly quantitative fields, finance or sciences, things where there really are quantifiable measures of your output, and still you see very often, if you are a once in a generation mind and your skills are that great, and people will work with you. And it's the same in Hollywood. We hear lots of stories of divas and people who are difficult. But as soon as the tide turns, as soon as their star power or whatever is propelling them to the top wanes at all, you see people want to get rid of them, because they are a pain to work with. So, rather than making it so your skills are the only thing saving you, make it so almost your skills are kind of a bonus, and people are like, we know you will show up, you will be a professional, you'll be a pleasure to work with, you'll enhance everything. And in any field you do, you'll be a value add, you'll make those around you better, you'll elevate it, and then your skills can really shine and enhance them. But it's I think it is interesting because I see my career, the first hosting job I had was 2004. It was a show on E, a game show, a Fear Factor type show that lasted one season. But it led to a home makeover show on a sister channel of E called Style, which no longer exists. That led to a sports show on Versus, a sister channel within Comcast that no longer exists. That led to American Ninja Warrior on G4, which no longer exists, that then became NBC. So my first job in 2004 hosting led to the job I have today 15 years later. And a lot of it was because they liked me on the first show, word got out within this sister network, and it led to me getting that opportunity. And I think it's amazing to see how often that happens because, certainly in entertainment, but probably in most fields, the job you have now will not be the job you have for the rest of your life, 10 years, maybe even 5 or a year. So you need to think about where will that next job come from, and to try to cast your net as wide as possible and make sure people who work with you will want to work with you again. And we're not just talking about the bosses, the people who gave you the job, because the people who sometimes are low on the totem pole, they'll advance. And they're the ones who can be giving you that job, which is why, it's just, like my mom raised me, be nice to people.
Right.
But it is one of those things that I think we often overlook, how much we have the power to elevate people and how they can really return that favor, and make sure that, you have the opportunity to work in the future.
Not only that, but it's just better energy. I mean,
yeah.
You go around being nice. It's just a better way to live. It may or may not open doors, but at the end of the day, you sleep better, you have more fun, you laugh more. And I think that's what's really important. I just don't see how some of these people even have any fun because they're always uptight. It's all about them and me, and I'm the big star or I'm the boss, and it seems like they're not having fun at all. But so let's go back. I want to go back and talk about how you went from doctor to comedian to now we talked a little bit about how you got into the hosting business, but really I'm intrigued by the whole doctor comedian. Talk about it.
So the first time when I grew up, entertainment was not on the table as a profession. I didn't know anyone in entertainment. I was brought up with my parents were from small town Nebraska, very hard workers, very much get an education, get a job. And it's not as though they were like, that's silly. It's just, it just wasn't in the realm of possibility. We didn't know anyone who did it. So, when I was in medical school in New York, I had a friend who was doing open mics. He dragged me to an open mic and he ended up getting me to do it. And I loved it. But even still, I didn't think this was ever something that I would do. So it wasn't until I was doing my residency in Colorado in internal medicine when I started to realize my heart wasn't in medicine. And it was that lesson of medicine was the perfect profession for me on paper. I loved science. I loved people. I loved the idea of helping people. But you realize you don't live your life on paper. And when I was just leading that day-to-day existence, my heart wasn't in it. I felt like medicine is a calling. I was feeling like a fraud. I felt like I'm not serving my patients. I'm not serving myself. And I thought I need to take a year off and clear my mind. I thought I just needed to grow up, and then I would come back to medicine with a renewed focus and be a great doctor and lead a happy life. And so I thought, what could I do? I thought travel the world, go be a ski bum, go be a surf bum, or bar, whatever. And I thought, you know what? Let me do something creative because I've never really done anything creative. It had been science and sports. So I thought, I want to light up a different side of my brain and see what happens, just to see how it changes my thoughts. And so I thought I'll move out to LA and do stand-up for a year, and thinking that this would be a year, maybe 2, and then I'd come back. Within 3 or 4 weeks of being on stage, and we're talking awful open mics in LA, But there was just something I felt when I went on stage where I thought this is what I was meant to do. And I was lucky that pretty shortly, in a couple months, I met someone who knew someone who led me into commercial auditions, and I started booking commercials. And commercials paid very well back then. And so I was making 6 or 7 times what I was as an intern, as a resident. And so financially, all of a sudden it made sense to stay. But emotionally and spiritually and in all the other ways, I was feeling like I found what I was meant to do. And so that transition was, I often think about how many people go through life never discovering their passion, because they just don't do it. Right. I could have been the world's greatest violinist, but if I never pick up a violin, I wouldn't know. And so I think how lucky I was to have been on a track completely removed from what I'm doing now, and to be able to step outside of it and find what I believe I'm meant to do, and that is entertain people and perform and try to make people, really try to help people through making them feel better, through making them laugh. And so I realized how lucky I was to find that. And then within stand-up comedy, I was doing Groundlings, the sketch comedy where Will Ferrell, Pee Wee Herman, Phil Hartman, all of them, Kristen Wiig, they all came through Groundlings. I was there taking classes. Somebody saw me and submitted me for screenplay. The host, he thought, hey, you might be a good host. And so it was, again, just a random chance that somebody submitted me for that I got into hosting. I didn't know at that point. I thought I was going to be just a stand-up or maybe a sitcom actor or something. Instead, I discovered hosting and I realized, all right, this is something I can do. This really suits my skill set. And again, it was kind of just blind luck that I stumbled into it. So I'd love to say I had this vision. I knew what was going to happen, but a lot of my life, I think, has been kind of placing myself out there and allowing happenstance to kind of guide me. And then I think just being smart enough to realize, all right, I think I can do this. This is something I love doing, and kind of being open to, I think a lot of people might discover something they like, but think, I can't make that work, or that's not what I'm supposed to do or what people expect. So I was very lucky, I think, to find it and be able to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and it took me forever to realize that it is about finding something that you love to do. So when you transition from being a doctor into a comedian, how old were you about that time?
So I was like 28 when I left, when I hung up the stethoscope and got into my first hosting gig. I think I was 34. So 48 now. And yeah, it's been an unbelievable ride that I hope keeps going for a long time.
Sure. All right. So did you have moments where you were like doubting?
Yeah.
And so talk about that. How did you overcome that doubt or that fear, that nagging sensation that, man, this may not be good?
So I think there's there's always, when I left medicine, part of it was, okay, maybe I'll come back. But the more I stayed out here, part of it was medicine is a safe profession. As a doctor, your career is pretty much mapped out in front of you. And to think about walking away from that. But I think what I've realized is particularly as time has gone by and having seen friends in finance or other fields or even in medicine where things have changed, and you realize in a lot of careers, certainty is kind of an illusion, that everything can change. Nothing is really guaranteed. Obviously, entertainment is far more fickle than most, but you realize nothing is guaranteed. So you think, if I'm going to bet on something, rather than betting on, a stable profession or a stable city or whatever it is, I would rather bet on myself and bet that somehow I will find a way to make things happen. And I think I've realized my greatest moments have come when I bet on myself and kind of relied on, I can do this. I know it'll turn out well. And and ride those risks. And, like Celebrity Apprentice was one of those situations where going on there, my boss on Ninja Warrior, my bosses, the last thing they said was, people like you, don't screw this up. Because they knew on reality TV, you don't control how they portray you. And the reality is they could all of a sudden portray you to be a jerk, and then people might not like me on Ninja. It could cost me my job. And so they're like, you're potentially risking this job on Ninja Warrior to go on this show. And I thought, you know what? I trust that I'll be able to do the right thing and make sure I get to portray myself in a way that hopefully people will like me. And I just, took that risk, and it ended up being, it is hard because people will push your buttons, and you can really sometimes want to just lay into it, but you think, you know what, there's something bigger here. And so I think when you have those doubts, and I still do, you still, in entertainment, I always assume every season of a show is going to be the last. Yeah. And I'm always looking for the next thing. And that can be uncomfortable as you start to think, what am I going to do in 5 years, 10 years? What am I going to do in retirement? What am I going to do if I have kids? And you just, one of the things I still, will talk myself through this and just say, you've done this before, you've been here before, bet on yourself. And I think that's kind of the thing, is just trust that you will find your skills and that your passion and again, you really have to put yourself into it though. And you have to throw yourself into something. Yeah. Which is, again, that motivates you too, when you feel like, I'm taking my shot. Yeah. This isn't, I'm leading life by my rules and my choice. I want to be the captain of my ship, because there are a lot of times where I've been kind of a passenger on a boat, just floating around waiting for things to happen. And at those points, those are the points where I struggle the most, I think, in life. And it's a constant battle. You realize this, where I don't think you wake up and one day everything is solved. You realize one of the things, and that's what being around someone like Schwarzenegger is, where you realize it's this day-to-day force of will. Rarely is life shifted by one event, where one event all of a sudden launches you and you never have to look back. It can be that change, but you realize you have to make that same decision every day. And that I think is the greatest challenge, is to wake up with that passion, to find that passion, or even if the passion isn't there that day, to say, I'm going to have the dedication, the perseverance to do it anyway. Kind of like going to the gym. We don't always want to do it. I've got a green smoothie here. I don't want this. I want to go to McDonald's and get an Egg McMuffin. And I might later, but right now, at least I've got this. Yeah. That's so interesting. And you're absolutely right. You've hit, several key takeaways there. I was having, my son is trying something new, and he says, man, I've never worked this hard. He says, my bubble has been burst, because I always thought if I worked really hard that I would be able to succeed at whatever I wanted. And I said, maybe you're not working as hard as you think you are. Yeah. Because sometimes, it's the hardest thing for us as humans to do, is to look at ourselves and say, you could do better. You're not working as hard. You're not as good as that person. And that's possibly why you didn't get the job, or possibly why you're not getting, whatever it is. Sometimes there is that skill set that is required. But yeah, I've come across, and even with myself, where I thought, man, I'm working so hard. And then you realize, I still got more I can give. And what happens is, you might be working hard and not seeing the results you want. Therefore, the work that you're doing seems harder than it really is. Yeah. Well, I think there are two things there. One is, again, not letting the no shape you, where if you don't get that immediate yes, feeling like, okay, it's not working out. You have to have that, I think, unshakable spirit of, I will make this work, where this no, or, that I haven't gotten the yes yet, means it's not working. I think you have to have that perseverance to go, I will change their mind or find someone else. And the other thing I think is also to figure out, sometimes it is to be able to assess, not only am I working hard enough, but am I working the right way? And to be able to either assess yourself or to get feedback from people and say, all right, where am I missing? Am I working hard enough, or am I working super hard, but just in the wrong direction, or showcasing the wrong skills, or putting it forward in a different way. And I think, one of the things, so I do stand up, and one of the real abilities I think that makes a stand up better is to be able to critically evaluate yourself. Because if you come off stage and go, I destroyed, that set was perfect, well, you're maybe not going to grow as much. So to be able to step back and go, hey, that joke worked, but it could have worked better. Let me try to make it even better. So to take something that's good enough and make it great, and to continue to improve. And that's hard. That is hard, because sometimes you feel like, hey, I'm good enough. Let me make it happen now. Instead of saying, all right, I'm good enough, I'm going to try to make it happen, but let me constantly be getting better, and doing it in a way that is not just what you think, but trying to get that feedback from people to see, what do people want from you? How do people view you?
Right.
Which is hard sometimes to get feedback. The internet can give you all kinds of feedback, and some of it's constructive. But I think, especially one of the nice things is when I've now gotten to work with a lot of showrunners, people who do get to get jobs, and trying to be around them and hear, what are you looking for? What is it that makes someone stand out? And then figure out, am I delivering on that?
Right.
So I think it is, this constant critical evaluation of yourself too. That's an important part of success.
It is. You know what? And so there's that adage, that saying out there, that if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And I think that messes with people. My brother has, and I don't know where he got it from, but I learned it from him. And his saying is, it's never so good it can't get better.
Yeah.
And it's never so bad it can't get worse.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to be open to that. And if you have the mentality that, hey, it's not broke, why fix it? Well, that's what Blockbuster said. And there's a generation of people that don't even know what a Blockbuster is, and so you have to be, as you said, be willing to constantly look at yourself, and maybe you need a coach. Speaking of Schwarzenegger, one of the things that I found amazing about him was that he is very quick to get a coach to help him in an area that he needs help in. Mm-hmm. And very few people are willing to do that. And so one of the reasons that he's been able to succeed over and over and over again, I think, is because he'll go get help. He'll look for ways to speed up that learning curve. And even when he started getting into real estate, he had Joe Weider as his mentor, and Joe would tell him and Franco what to buy, where to buy it, how to buy it. And he said, even with Joe's help, the first property that him and Franco bought together didn't go so well. But on the second property, he did well, and it was a small apartment complex and stuff like that. But this idea of constantly checking and trying to get better, it's tough. It's really one of the things that separates, I think, mediocre success from high level achievers.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that amazed me about Schwarzenegger that people don't know is he was a millionaire before his first movie from real estate. He came here with nothing. And through bodybuilding, he was doing mail order supplements, mail order training. He and Franco were working as contractors. And he took the money he had, and like you said, got help from Joe Weider, and then started getting in with some real estate moguls in this area. And he was smart enough to say, teach me, let me, and people wanted to be around him because he had this unbelievable energy that made people feel this guy is going places, even when he was still kind of just a bodybuilder. So I think that's a really good lesson of, like you said, being humble enough and smart enough to say, hey, I can learn more from people who are where I want to be in other fields, or even in my field. And to have that humility, the confidence to say, I know I'm good at this, and the humility to say, but I know I can get better.
Right. And not to make this a love fest for Arnold, but the thing that impresses me also, we're talking about doing the thing that you love. Here he loved bodybuilding, and a lot of people don't know this, but you could not make a living at bodybuilding during the time that him and Franco were the top bodybuilders in the world. You would, as a Mr. Olympia, you were getting like $1,000 or $1,500. That was your payday as the as the old Mr. Olympia. Now it's taken for granted that if you're the top bodybuilder, you're going to get, 300, 400, 500 grand. I think Schwarzenegger again was the one who raised the bar, and he started paying hundreds of thousands of dollars at his event. And then Olympia, started also paying hundreds of thousands of dollars at their event. But for years, he literally was the world's greatest bodybuilder, but he had to do other things in order to be able to be a bodybuilder. And like you said, he did contractor, he did this job, he did that job. And then of course he's going to school and all this other stuff. So when I hear do something that you love and it might lead to something good, I think of his story, because very few people are going to be the number one in a field for 7 or 10 years and then not get paid for it.
Yeah,
very few people have that kind of dedication. So,
yeah, and it's amazing to watch how the entire time he was improving himself, because most people feel like if I'm the champion at one thing, that's what I'll do. But instead to be saying, I'm going to groom the next step and the step after that, to real estate, to movies, to politics, where the whole time he was improving himself, expanding his spheres, expanding his knowledge. And I think, again, what a reminder for all of us in ways to improve, whether it becomes something or not. I think that quest to constantly expand your mind. And it's easy. Yeah. It's easy to get kind of trapped in your field. And I'm certainly guilty of, let me issue the caveat. Like, I am not perfect at any of these things. As I say these things, a lot of times I'm reminding myself on ways to improve. And it is. And I think Arnold, the first one is, as the people who are great are probably the people who are often least satisfied, and that's what drives them. So
we're getting close on time, but I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
And your co-host Akbar does a great job.
Yeah.
But the show, has become kind of your thing. When you come out there and you say American Ninja Warrior, did you get that job? And did you do that at the audition and they said, that's the guy?
No. In fact, if you watch the first couple seasons, I'm like, coming up next, an American Ninja Warrior. It wasn't there. And it really, what happened is, when you watch the show, it's so high energy. We're yelling for the athletes. And early on, I was blowing my voice out. So I was getting really gravelly. And so when I was going out, it was that was the only sound I could make was coming up next, American Ninja Warrior. And I was doing it once and my voice was shot. And the EP goes, okay, that was good, but can you put a little more on it? So as a joke, I go, American Ninja Warrior. And she was like, great. And that was like season 4. And that kind of stuck. And so, it was just something that I stumbled into. And it's, I'm lucky that I essentially was there since season 2. We're in season 11 now. So I've become kind of the voice of the show. And a lot of it was just being there, the right place, the right time, but then trying to make the most of it. So it's a show. And I had no idea it was going to become what it has. And I think when you watch it, the obstacles are great, but it's not, I think why the show is popular, it's not the obstacles the athletes overcome on the course. It's the ones they overcome off the course. It's the stories. Yeah. And it's a great lesson of what compels people, and that is storytelling. Because it's the same with the Olympics. When you watch someone doing something, why do you care about the curling or lugeing? You care because you know the story, the backstory of that athlete, whether they're from America or a small town in Austria or wherever. And so I think watching Ninja and realizing the power of this show is in storytelling to make you care about why they're on the obstacles. It's kind of a good lesson. And one of the things I realized from Apprentice and from charity, people don't really give money to a disease or to a charity. They give money to a person. They give money to someone because of their story. So when you watch, I think a really effective charities will tell one person's story as a way to make you care. And a way to make you see this one person is why we want to help all the thousands or millions of people who are fighting this. So I think Ninja's been a really good reminder of the power of sharing a story.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny because when you think of your favorite movie, it's because for whatever reason you resonate with that story.
Yeah.
And your favorite comedians are great storytellers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nothing better than being sucked into your story where you're talking about, hey, I just had this experience, and we can kind of resonate with that experience. And then, of course, you put your little spin on it, and you know, everything from a song to a book to a show, it has that story element. Otherwise, we can't connect with it as humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that really is, so that's 100% when you realize what it is, you know, the ability. And I think it's not just entertainment. So often, if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for something, it's okay, you want the skills, but then give them the story, give them the why you're going to be passionate, why you're going to work harder. And whether you share it with them or not, I think for an individual to understand why you want to work hard, what's your purpose? If you can figure that out, if you can figure out your purpose and what's motivating you, I think that's one of the ways that you can unlock that drive, that dedication, that perseverance, the why, because it's easy to do it for a day or two, but it's 6 weeks in, a year in, when you're tired, when you've worked, 20 days in a row, that's when you need to say, when you just want to take a day off to say, all right, how do I motivate to do it today? And I think that's when you need to have that purpose, that shining beacon that cuts through everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Matt Iseman, thank you so much. Now, just real quick, what do you got coming up? You just wrapped the last episode, or the last season of American Ninja Warrior. Are you on tour as far as comedy? Tell us what's going on with your project.
So American Ninja Warrior, we finished filming, but season 11 is airing tonight. We're in the middle of city finals, so Oklahoma City is tonight. We just finished shooting American Ninja Warrior Junior season 2 on Universal Kids. That'll be coming out probably in January of 2020. Evel Live with Travis Pastrana and the Nitro Circus Gang. We're going to be on, it looks like around Labor Day. We hope to have Axel Hodges attempting the longest motorcycle jump in history. That'll be live on the History Channel. I did Lip Sync Battle in 1, and so there may be something else. I can't totally tell you everything that's coming, but there may be something more coming along those lines. And other than that, stand-up comedy, I'm going to be in Virginia Beach this weekend. So a lot more to come. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, Matt Iseman. It's Iseman. So just check me out. I love hearing from people and hearing what they like about Ninja Warrior. If there's something you don't like, don't tell me. Go complain to somebody else.
Yeah, don't tell me about it, because I'm not going to.
No, I get plenty of it. It's nice when you get constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And
real quick, for everybody, you can just, if you can remember the name, it's fairly easy. Matt Iseman. You can go to mattiseman.com and catch up with Matt. All his social media is there. All his events are there. His upcoming projects are there. He's fairly easy to find if you put in Matt Iseman. Google loves him, so he's all over Google. And, Matt, thank you so much for stopping by. Looking forward to catching up with you again, man.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it.
You bet.